Hey, Bistista, and welcome back to the VDL. Here we are for week 5. We are currently 3-1 after our loss in week 4 and hoping to get back on the winning trajectory in the second half of the season and hopefully be able to get first seed in our division. However, we are playing against the Quark Drivers this week, who is not only a great coach in Zam, but also one of the best teams, like by quality of team, because they are really high in our week 0 power rankings. And so here's the matchup. Before we get into the matchup, I'm going to mention a couple of things. Mainly that I had 3 big trades on my team. I got rid of Braylum for Metacham, and then I got rid of Drafarig and Oricorio for Slack King and Mischievous. So the idea behind this were Drafarig and Oricorio were pretty bad on my team. Specifically, Oricorio kind of just a Pokemon that existed on my team with no really big benefits to be there. And then Giraffe Rig definitely was underwhelming, and I didn't really have many opportunities in which I felt like it was worth bringing. And so, and then Breloom was pretty good. However, it definitely wasn't a MVP, and I think these combinations are really good. Slacking is a little bit strange because Slacking is a little bit of a meme Pokemon to a certain extent because its ability, Truant, that makes it not be able to move every other turn. And so you kind of need it to think of it as a combo Pokemon in which you combo with namely skill swap Metacham to give it pure power, but also you could technically do it with some other Pokemon, namely Mischievous that also has skill swap, or some other some other things that are worth noting. And so the idea behind this is I thought that these Pokemon were a little bit more useful. I think Metacham is fairly comparable to Braylon, maybe a little, hopefully a little better. The other two kind of hopefully fill out the more relevant roles than the Oricorio and Giraffe, which kind of felt like dead space on my team. And so now we can get into the specific matchup. Looking at their team, we can see their team has a very good speed. They have really fast Pokemon, really slow Pokemon. They have really good Trick Room setters in Driftbloom and Rapska. They have good Tailwind setter and Noivern. And they also have 2 Paradox Pokemon with the ability to set up Electric Train, in which they're both future Pokemon, so they get the boost from Electric Train in both of them. In addition, they have Drifloom with Unburden Electric Seed possibilities. So definitely a lot of synergies that can be really difficult for me to deal with. And so with that, let's see what I ended up bringing. So this is what I ended up bringing. We started out with Fluttermane. Fluttermane, I gave the boost energy, and it's going to get a speed boost. So with this, I'm actually guaranteed to outspeed any Pokemon on their team, even if they have Choice Scarf, and I'm also guaranteed to outspeed an unburden boosted Driftbloom, which is the big speed tier I wanted to guarantee outspeed, in which I can either go for an Icy Wind, lower the speed of a Pokemon, and punish it with one of my other Pokemon, or I can Terra Ghost to get a Shadow Ball, which is a good chance to one-hit KO the Driftbloom. Other than that, we have the Iron Treads. Iron Treads is an Assault Vest to deal with some of the special attackers, mainly Iron Moth. However, we also, helps with, Rapska Driftbloom damage outputs. We have the Terra Ground in order to lose the fire and ground weakness, which is the main offensive coverage I'm expecting to be super effective into Iron Treads this week, and also gives me an extra damage boost with my Stomping Tantrum. And in addition, it being a future Paradox one with Quark Driver, we actually have the ability to get a boost if they set up the electric train with a Pincurchin. Next up, we have Mischievous. So Mischievous, as you can see, actually, I brought all 3 of my new Pokemon this week. Mischievous seems very good into some of their Pokemon. Will-O-Wisp into the Iron Treads is really nice. Hex hits pretty much their entire team for reasonable damage. Now I can Trick Room to either get rid of their own Trick Room or to do it if they are able to get up Tailwind. And then we have Pain Split just as a means to get a little bit of recovery and do big chunks of damage to more bulky Pokemon. Next up, we have the Staraptor with the Wakan Berry and Intimidate. With the Wakan Berry, I should survive pretty much any attack from Iron Hands. And in addition to that, with the Intimidate, I can really disrupt the Crocodile and the Iron Hands. With Intimidating, we have the U-turn, so I can pivot very cleanly. Tailwind in case we want to be able to get a little bit of speed control. And then we have Close Combat and Brave Bird that hits basically everything with those two combinations. Then we have Terra Ground specifically as a means to get an electric immunity. If they're going to go for an electric move, obviously it's a little bit risky to go for it sometimes, and I'm going to, probably not use it, but I think it's more of a way, since it's an open Terra sheet, that they'll be a little bit hesitant to maybe go for an electric move if I haven't Terra'd yet. And then finally, we have our Slacking Metacham combo. Start with Metacham because Metacham's definitely not gonna, or frequently might come without slacking at all. With Fake Out, Close Combat, Zen Headbutt, with Focus Sash. The idea behind this: take one or take a hit, do massive chunks of damage with Close Combat, Zen Headbutt with the pure power, Fake Out as Disruption, and then we have the skill swap, namely to go onto the Slacking. However, it also does pretty well into the Star Raptor spot, giving Staraptor an attack boost and also getting a second Intimidate off, which can be really useful. However, it's pretty straightforward, just max speed, good max attack, hoping to get some kills. And then we have Slacking as my last Pokemon. We have Clear Amulet, so it can't be intimidated. It can't be strength sapped. Other debuffing moves. We have Terra Ghost mainly as defensive option in case I'm expecting to take a fighting move. And then we have Facade specifically to deal massive damage if I'm burned or toxic or anything like that. And then Earthquake, Rock Slide as coverage moves that hit multiple targets, as we can hit and kill a lot of Pokemon while doing damage to both Pokemon. And then Drain Punch as a means to get a little bit of HP recover and hit some Pokemon that maybe like Terra Steel that I don't want to Earthquake when my partner next to me might not be Mr. Abyss or Staraptor. And that's kind of the basis of my team. I definitely think all of them can hopefully do some work. And with that, we can get into the match. So, starting off before the match, this was the Terra types that I was revealed. I was given Pincurchin with Terra Dark, Iron Moth with Terra Bug, Drifloon with Fairy, Iron Hands with Grass, Florges with Water, and Crocodile with Steel. So a couple noteworthy things. Crocodile with Steel means that it's still weak to fighting, which is really nice. Iron Hands with Grass means that it can't tear Brave Bird is still going to do damage even if it does that. And similarly, Iron Moth and Bug means that it's still weak to Rock. And most of my damage that I was planning on doing with it was going to be Rock. And with that, let's get into the actual match. Here we are for game one. So I already went over the Pokemon they're bringing in, their Terra types. And so with kind of what they show me, I don't really expect to see Trick Room. It doesn't seem like they're super Trick Room focused. So Mr. Abyss doesn't seem incredibly necessary, especially since, And so I decided I wanted to lead Mr. Abyss because it's going to be my main fast Pokemon and speed control on addition to that. And there's not really many Pokemon that can threat it too much immediately. And so I decided to partner it between Staraptor, Iron Treads, and Metacham as the lead. And I can see an argument for all of them. The downside with Donphan specifically is with Intimidate, it can be a little bit less damage output. The downside of Metacham is if they lead a little bit more, if they lead like the Ghost Pokemon, I can't really fake out. And then Staraptor is very important to survive and damage output against some of these Pokemon. And so I decided to go with the Iron Treads in the back, or as in the lead with Staraptor in the back so I can save it. And then Metacham as my last Pokemon. Like I said, Mr. Abyss isn't super exciting because I don't expect to see Tailwind, and then Slacking a little bit, definitely was planning on never coming game one. So with that, let's get into the match. So they lead Drifloon and Crocodile, and I lead my Fluttermane and my Iron Treads, Mr. Abyss 2 and Donphan 2. And I get my boost energy boost, and they can Intimidate off with their Crocodile. And so the big idea here is basically deciding who's the bigger threat. I have a good chance to be able to one-shot Crocodile if I just go for a Moonblast. And I definitely have the ability to kill the Drifloon if I go for a Shadow Ball and Rock Slide, or Shadow Ball and Ice Spinner. And I decided to go for the Shadow Ball or an Ice Spinner double up instead of the ability to miss a Rock Slide. like I said, this is this could be a little risky. The big reason I don't want to go for the Moonblast into the Crocodile is they are Terra Steel, and if they do still move into me, they could definitely not die. And so with this, we are able to get the hit. They are not a ghost resist barrier, which is nice, which means we're able to get a clean kill with the Ice Spitter onto the Drifloon spot. So definitely not that bad of a turn for me. And they go for an Earthquake, which is doing a pretty good chunk of damage into both of my Pokemon. And they ended up bringing out the Iron Moth, and they also are booster energy, and they get a speed boost here, meaning that they're going to outspeed everything on my team other than my Fluttermane. And so here, it's definitely a little bit tricky. The option one is to go for a Moonblast, try to kill the Crocodile. The other one is to try to get damage to Iron Moth and switch into the Staraptor. And I decided to go kind of for a middle ground in which I go for Icy Wind and switch into the Staraptor, getting the Intimidate, and hopefully lowering the speed of both these Pokemon. And we get the Intimidate off into both of them, and they protect the Iron Moth, which makes sense because it seems like they're probably going to go for an Earthquake if that's the case. However, with the switch in, I feel pretty good about that. We get the Icy Wind, and because they didn't Terra Steel, a Moonblast was definitely could have been the way to punish this because I would have gotten a clear kill onto the Crocodile. However, with the Earthquake, they are able to kill my Fluttermane. However, I did get very good damage into the Crocodile, and Crocodile is now at -1, which means most of my Pokemon should outspeed it. And here we decided to just switch out into the Metacham, which allows me to pretty comfortably go for a Fake Out into the Iron Moth, since we know it cannot have an item that prevents Fake Out, and we know it's Terra type. And I decided to go for a Tailwind in order to punish possible Protect and also let me outspeed the following turn after this Fake Out goes off. And I'm pretty sure there's nothing that can let me kill the Staraptor from this position. And so they do, in fact, switch into the Pincurchin. And it just takes a Fake Out, which does pretty good damage, honestly speaking. And we get a Tailwind up. And the Crocodile just goes for a Rock Tomb, which does okay damage and lowers my speed a little bit. However, I do have Tailwind, so I should outspeed everything on the field. And so here, the big question is I think both these Pokemon can be killed by an attack. I decided to go for the close combat into the Pincurchin, and the big question is Brave Bird into Crocodile or close combat into Crocodile. The downside of close combat is if they switch in Iron Moth, it's bad, and the downside of Brave Bird is if they Terra Steel, it's bad. And so it's a little bit of a 50-50 no matter what I choose. I decided to go with Brave Bird just because I think there are, two of the three options it's good for. And we get the close combat off, and Pincurchin gets killed by the close combat. And they didn't Terra, and they didn't switch out, which means that we're in pretty good shape because I believe this Brave Bird should kill. And as we see, the Brave Bird does in fact kill from this range. And so pretty good position where we are now. So Iron Brittle comes back out, and because the electric terrain is up, they get a speed boost as well. And so now we are pretty good shape because Zen Headbutt should be a one-hit KO on here, and we have the Focus Sash, so we're in pretty good shape. And I just go for the Brave Bird at this position. And they go for their Terra into Terra Bug, which means that this Zen Headbutt probably doesn't kill anymore. There's a chance, but it definitely is not a guaranteed kill now like it was previously. However, this does mean that Brave Bird should be a kill, and I missed the Zen Headbutt, which is huge. That's so bad for me. And in addition to that, they don't even have to risk missing it because they have Sludge Wave here, and they outspeed despite me having Tailwind up. However, we have Donphan now, and that means most likely they're going to have to risk a Heat Wave miss. I have Tailwind up, so I survived this turn. However, if they protect, they can stall the final turn of Tailwind and probably just go for a Heat Wave, which would kill both my Pokemon at this range. So definitely looking like a bad position for me now that I ended up losing or missing that move there. And I just need to basically hope that I can get a kill. I decided to go for a Terra Ground in order to possibly survive Heat Wave. like I said, hopefully we can take maybe a hit, but they decide to not protect, which is huge, and I'm able to connect the rock slide and get the kill from this range. I got a crit. I don't think that crit mattered because that was a single target, and I was at +1 because of the electric strength boost, and that completely bad luck from missing that Zen headbutt. Pretty much got a little bit negated with them not having protect or not protecting that turn. So with that, we go to game 2. So here we are for game 2. So game 1 went okay. Definitely feel like I might have lost that game with the Zen headbutt miss, and they not having protect was huge. And so here, the big question is, how do I want to adjust? And like we saw, I'm expecting them to probably go Iron Hands this time, and I'm not sure the best way to beat that. And I decided probably a good way to deal with that is honestly just the slacking with this. I obviously also considered a little bit of just leading Mischievous Staraptor being a little bit cleaner of a lead, and and the Iron Treads as well. And so there's definitely a lot of possibilities. But like I said, I think I decided that with Iron Hands being able to do Terra Ghost, slacking looks really good here. And in addition to that, um, it definitely makes them have to adjust to a different possibility. And I consider bringing Mischievous just as a means to, intimidate some of these Pokemon, have a ground immunity. However, I quickly realized that it was probably not the best decision, and I probably should just go with my good Pokemon and Fluttermane and Staraptor, or Fluttermane and Iron Treads. And I decided to go with the Staraptor, and because I want to be able to switch in something after I go for the skill swap, and I decided to go for the Fluttermane over the Donphan because the possibility Intimidate and it being a little better defensive typing. And so here we are. They end up leading Iron Hands and Florges, and I lead the Slacking in the Metachan. And so I definitely want to fake out with Metachan on turn 1 and not do the skill swap on turn 1. And so the big question is, do I want to go for the damage into Florges or the damage into the Iron Hands on top of the fake out? And I decide I want to fake out into the Iron Hands unquestionably, since it's probably going to have fake out itself. And the question is, yeah, like I said, Facade into Iron Hands or Florges. I decide I want to go into the Iron Hands because it's the bigger threat, and then I want to get some damage onto it because Florges, is definitely frail on the physical side. So we get the fake off, and they reveal to have fake out themselves since they were going to go faster than the other two Pokemon. We get a Facade, and it does pretty good damage to both of them. And they just go for a Chilling Water to Slacking, which doesn't lower my attack because of my Clear Amulet, which means I had a really good turn here, and I can just go for a Skill Swap Earthquake, which has a good chance to kill Iron Hands and Florges from this range. And I decided to go for a Terra Ghost, specifically to avoid if I do not kill the Iron Hands from them hitting me with the Drain Punch. And so they end up switching out the Iron Hands and go into a Crocodile. Like I said, not that big of a deal given the fact that I have the Clear Amulet. I can't be intimidated. They intimidate the Metacham, which is completely irrelevant to me because I'm planning on skill swapping and then switching out the following turn. And we Terra Ghost, like I said, mainly as a defensive option. And so we get the skill swap off, and like I said, with my EVs, the important thing is I'm not max speed slacking specifically, so I can skill swap and then attack immediately the following turn. As we see, we do 60% into Florges and like 80% into the Crocodile, and here they end up getting a Moon Blast off, which is a very good chunk of damage. Definitely feel like maybe I could have gone for just a Facade, killing the Florges guaranteed. However, Earthquake was, just going to do good damage across the board no matter what. And here we can switch out into the Staraptor, go for another Earthquake, which get the double knockout, and intimidate Crocodile in case it's faster than me. Because, like I said, I'm not actually outspeeding a max speed Crocodile because I wanted to be able to skill swap and then attack the same turn. So we switch out the Metachan into the Staraptor, getting an Intimidate off, and hopefully either killing both these Pokemon or, killing at least one of them. And they go for a Protect on the Florges, and they end up revealing that they are faster than my Slacking, which, not too surprising. It just means that they're on the faster side. And with the Earthquake, we can see that honestly it doesn't do a huge chunk of damage to the Slacking, and I'm able to kill the Crocodile. So definitely not the best here, but I think I was able to get pretty good chunk of damage to a multiple number of their Pokemon, and now we're not in the worst shape. And so they bring out Iron Moth here, and Iron Moth is going to outspeed both my Pokemon, so it's a little bit awkward. I don't have Protect on Slacking, and so my Slackling's probably going to die, and I can obviously just hope I don't die and go for a Rock Slide. I don't really want to switch out and Staraptor, and so the big question is, do I want to go for the Tailwind, so I outspeed Iron Moth the following turn with my Staraptor, or go for the Brave Bird and kill the Florges, or threaten to kill or at least do like 90ish% into the Iron Moth with that Brave Bird. And I decide that because I have Fake Out in the back and and Flutter Mane in the back, that can both kind of outspeed Iron Moth to a certain extent, I decide to go for a Brave Bird. So they end up going for a Fiery Dance instead of something like a Heat Wave, which is definitely nice for the damage total output. They get a special attack boost with their Fiery Dance. However, Slacking going down is definitely pretty sad here. If I had Protect on Slacking, I definitely would have protected Intel Wind at that turn. However, I am able to get a Brave Bird off and just barely miss out on that KO. However, luckily for me, it is in range of a Fake Out here. And here I just go for, they get a Chilling Water that goes for an attack boost. So here I switch out Medicham, and immediately at this point, I realized this was a mistake. I should have brought out Flutter Mane. The reason why this is a mistake is faking out Iron Moth and Brave Bird is easy double knockout if neither of them protect. However, if they double protect here, Iron Moth outspeeds both of my Pokemon, go for a Heat Wave, get a double knockout. And this completely punishes my turn entirely. And so I need to decide whether or not I want to make that risk. And because if they protect with the Iron Moth here and I just go for the double attack, I lose the game. And so I decide to make the read that they're going to go for Protect here and switch into the Flutter Mane. So we switch in the Flutter Mane, predicting to Protect, get the boost energy boost. Now that we're going to outspeed everything on the field, and they don't protect, and I get the Fake Out off. But it's going to be okay. It can be fine as long as I don't take much damage from my Flutter Mane. However, I take a Moonblast that does almost 50%, and I get a special attack drop on top of that, making this a very bad turn for me. Yeah, so if I doubled up, the game was completely over. Obviously, it was not completely a throw there, but if I didn't switch in Metachamp and I had Flutter Mane that turn, I would never have made that error because I would have gone for the Brave Bird into the Florges and the attack into the Iron Moth and killed it. However, now not the best position for me. I can decide to go for a double up into the Iron Hands, trying to kill it. Double up into Florges, try to kill it. Definitely unclear what's the best option here, though. I obviously, on top of that, I have the possibility of Fake Out, so I definitely feel the need to kind of switch out to be able to not die from the Metachan and save it for a future turn. So I do switch into the Staraptor, getting a Intimidate on Iron Hands, which helps me a little bit. Go for a Terra Grass into the Iron Hands. And Iron Hands goes for the Fake Out and Staraptor, which was kind of expected, which is why I switched out. And we do a Moonblast into the Iron Hands that does so little damage. Disappointingly little damage. Obviously, this makes me believe that Iron Hands is probably a um, probably a assault vest. And here, I definitely once again think I might have made a little bit of a mistake. I decide to go for a U-turn into the Iron Hands when I probably should have just gone for a kill with the Brave Bird now that it's weak to the flying coverage. And though the U-turn, is going to do super effective damage, I'm pretty much faking or sacrificing my Fake Out for the rest of the game by doing this U-turn. And in addition to that, Moonblast doesn't even kill Florges because of its naturally high special defense and the fact that it's that I have a -1 special attack. And so definitely really bad here. If I didn't get the special attack drop and killed the Florges here, I think I'd be in okay shape. However, with this, my Metacham gets killed, and in addition to that, my Hariyama and not the Iron Hands is able to kill my Flutter Mane. So definitely a really disappointing turn here. Like I said, I don't know what would happen if I would have just gone for a Brave Bird into the into the Iron Hands if it killed or not. Um, and we reveal that Forgus is Flower Bell, which actually prevents the Intimidate onto the Iron Hands. However, at this point, I'm just going to check some damage calcs and go for the Brave Bird. And as we can see, I get a kill here. I don't know if I would the extra U-turn damage would it's the difference or not. So maybe I wouldn't have gotten the kill, but I definitely think not Brave Birding into the Iron Hands previously getting a kill would at least trying to get that kill would have probably been the right play, especially since I could have Brave Bird and gone for a double up into that spot to try to guarantee the kill. So I definitely think that end game was really bad for me. I think I made a misplay on bringing out the Metacham the turn instead of bringing out the Flutter Mane that one turn. In addition, I made the bad read of expecting them to protect and them not protecting. And then finally, I decided to go for the U-turn instead of the Brave Bird to try to get massive damage into the Iron Hands and possibly getting a kill on it. Because if it killed it, then the Metacham in the back would have finished up the game. So massive misplace, played terribly, could have gotten a 2-0. Hopefully I can turn it around and get back in game 3. Here we are for game 3, hoping to turn around after playing really badly and pretty much giving up a 2-0 win this week and trying to figure out how I want to adjust. I decided I don't want to do the slacking lead, especially since now they completely expect it. And I can see an argument to having it in the back if I want, but I don't want to have it in the back if I lead Metacham. And so the big question is what I want to lead. Oh, my opponent leads Drifloom and Iron Hands, and I have my Metacham and Flutter Mane. And so here, there's pretty much not much I can do here. There's really only one reasonable play I can go with, which is just fake out into the Iron Hand spot and then go for a Shadow Ball. And I decided to go for a Terra Ghost Shadow Ball specifically. From the game 1 damage calcs, I don't expect this to kill. However, there's a chance it could kill. However, the idea is just to get good damage. And as we kind of saw in game 1, I wasn't really using my Terra super effectively, and I wanted to just be able to get a little bit of extra damage. We get the Terra Ghost, and we fake out into the Hariyama, which revealed that it was also going to go for a fake out, which means that we made the right call there. And we get the Terra Ghost Shadow Ball into the Drifloom, and just miss out on the KO. And they go for a Phantom Force, which has me terrified here. I'm like, oh my gosh, are they Power Herb? And they're not Power Herb, which is really good for me because this means that I can pretty safely just go for a Zen Headbutt and switch out into the Star Raptor because Star Raptor is going to intimidate the Hariyama, should be able to take any electric move. And in addition to that, if they went for a Ghost move, it will completely nullify the Drifloom. So we switch out the Flutter Mane into the Star Raptor, getting the Intimidate as planned. And they decide to Terra Grass into the Hariyama, which makes sense because they don't want to take a Psychic move, which would be super effective and do very good chunk of damage into them. And as we see, we get a pretty good chunk of damage with the Zen Headbutt. And the Phantom Force does in fact go into the Flutter Mane spot, meaning I take no damage. And the Thunder Punch, though hitting me for pretty reasonable damage, definitely mitigated because of the Wakanberry and the Intimidate. And so here I decided to just go for the double knockout. I could definitely see an argument for maybe going double up into one of the other Pokemon just to play around it, or using a slightly different move like U-turn to play around a possible switch. However, I want to try to kill this and just get massive damage if possible. And they end up switching out the Iron Hands into the Pincurchin, setting up the Electric Rain, and as I expect, probably setting up a Electric Seed, giving them the Unburden boost, which I probably should have expected a little bit. I definitely did not expect this with the turn they had. And they go for a Strength Sap, which is really annoying for me since now I'm probably not going to be able to kill it, and I'm at pretty low attack. However, it doesn't give them max HP because even though I have a lot of damage output, it's mainly because of my ability Pure Power. And so I might be able to kill here, not 100% sure. And we are able to get the kill, but it's a crit. I have no idea that damage calc. I sure it probably mattered, but I'm hoping it didn't because I'm hoping to be able to just get there with that. And so here they just bring out Iron Moth, and they get the Quark Drive boost with the speed boost, and definitely we're in this kind of interesting middle ground. So I decide to just go for some damage and go for a Zen Headbutt, trying to kill the Iron Moth since we know that it um, can't tear anymore, and we decided to go for a Tailwind. I considered switching out, however, because they went to a Fiery Dance, there wasn't a great switch in, so I think it was definitely the right decision to just stay in, go for a Tailwind there. Because if Tailwind goes up, we're in really good shape, and we get the Zen Headbutt, and even at -1, we get a one-hit KO onto the Iron Moth, which means that definitely that missing game one was a really big deal. However, they are able to just get a Zigzag doing pretty good damage. So here I decided to switch out into Donphan. The main reason behind this is because I don't want to get sucker punched by this, um, this Pincurchin. And in addition, we are able to get an attack boost from our from the Electric Train being up. However, Iron Hands also gets an attack boost. So here, this is definitely a little awkward situation. I can see an argument for attacking with both, or trying to switch out one of these, expecting either a Drain Punch or a Sucker Punch into that spot. However, the downside is I definitely think I need to double up in order to kill Iron Hands from this, even with the attack boost from the Dawn Fan. And so I decide to just go for the double attack in order to play around, um, just the fact that only one attack won't kill. However, they do in fact go for the Sucker Punch in the Metachamp, and Metachamp dies. Switching in would have been really nice there, especially since it's somewhat predicted. We're able to get a Ice Spinner off, just barely missing out on the KO. However, luckily for me, we do drop the Electric Drain, which means that they have a little bit less attack since their Quark Driver's over now because the Electric Drain's gone. However, they are able to get a Drain Punch, getting like 80% of my health, but mainly the big thing, getting me low enough in which or gaining a bunch of HP because it was Drain Punch instead of a normal fighting move. And so now we're in this really awkward position because Sucker Punch threatens both of my Pokemon. I don't think it kills my Fluttermane, but it probably kills my Donphan. However, Iron Treads is Assault Vest, so I can't switch out. I mean, I can't protect or read a Sucker Punch at that spot. So I just go for the most damage I can do into the Iron Hands with a Terra boosted Shadow Ball. And I'm debating between just like a Rock Slide to get a little chip to both of them. But I decide to go for the safer move and just go for the Ice Spinner. This double up definitely kills, no question asked. I'm almost positive it's an Assault Vest, so they don't have Protect, and they go for the Sucker Punch, and I live on 1 HP. That was an unbelievable survival. Cannot believe I was able to get there with that survival. And as we see, the Shadow Ball does not kill, so I 100% needed to survive this turn, that move, to be able to get there. But now it's a 2v1. Sucker Punch can kill either of these, or can't kill the Fluttermane, and I should be able to one-shot him with either of my Pokemon. And so I just go for the Shadow Ball and the Stomping Tantrum, and we got there. That survival 1 HP was huge. I definitely did not play great. My opponent played very well. They had a lot of interesting tech that did really well. And I definitely think that I probably didn't quite deserve this because they played so well and prepped so well. However, I'm very happy to have gotten here because, as we can see, Sucker Punch does not even kill the Fluttermane as I expected. And we were able to get a Terra boosted Shadow Ball, able to get the kill. Stress. I will say there's definitely multiple times in which I could have made reads and they would have helped me a bunch. And there was a couple times in which I made reads, were wrong about the reads, and got punished directly. And then a couple of just explicit errors I made that definitely hurt me notably. I definitely think that if I played cleaner in game one, or in game two, I definitely could have just beaten them game two. If, like I said, I think the biggest error was literally just making that Fluttermane not or bringing in Metacham instead of Flutter Remain that one turn, because if I would have gotten Flutter Remain, I wouldn't have had to make that 50-50 read that then stressed me out and then hurt me quite a bit. So definitely a fun, close match. Incredibly close. Zam played really well. However, I'm very happy to get up to 4-1 because now I'm one win away from making playoffs, and I am cleanly in first seed in my division. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and see y'all next time.